Well, hey friends, welcome back to the podcast. This is Monday Fire, episode number 111. 111. And I'm glad that you're here. Hey, we're going to talk about the difference between men and women in business today. Not all the differences, but some of the differences that I've been talking about in some of my coaching groups. And I've been sitting here thinking, okay, how am I going to present this in a way that doesn't sound sexist, or that somebody doesn't think makes me anti-woman or anti-man, because it's none of that. Okay, it's just none of that. But there are some real differences in the way that most men who are in business are wired versus how a lot of the women who are in business are wired. Now, the majority of my audience is female. The majority of my clients are female. So I'm going to be talking to you females today and just telling you some of the things that I think that we can really learn from men who are in business. And please know that these are just generalizations. This does not mean that every man is this way or every woman is this way. And I'm not anti-men, I'm not anti-woman. Okay. And so, we live in a world, unfortunately, right now where people will take some of your words and they'll want to twist them and, do weird things with them. And so I just want to establish right from the beginning that I want us to be wise and understanding and seeing that there are differences between men and women. God designed us to be different. Okay. So all you have to do is, kind of look at our bodies. There's differences, right? There's also differences in our minds. There's a lot of differences in the way that we're wired emotionally. And so that means a lot of times men and women show up different in business. And I think that as wise women, we can look to the men in our industries and really learn. And I think wisdom is also that those men can look at us ladies and learn. Okay. Because that's what makes us powerful. And it would be powerful, to be doing collaborations together, men and women in different industries. And so these are just a couple of the things that I've been mulling over and talking to some of my clients about. But I want to tell you first of all, a couple of strengths that I just see in terms of women in business, because these are a couple of things that the men could really learn from. Women, I think, make great business owners because the majority of the time, and by the way, I'm not going to try to fluff up my words the rest of this podcast and make a whole bunch of blanket statements in the beginning so you don't think that, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm trying to say, but I know that not all women are this way, but a lot of them are. Okay. So let's just say that generally speaking, God has designed women to be a little more sensitive, a little more sometimes compassionate, sometimes more intuitive, a lot of times more like touchy-feely, right? This actually serves us as females so much, especially in the coaching industry. Can I tell you why? It's so totally a super strength because we're more intuitive, because we understand our clients a lot of times at a different level. We understand the language that our clients both will use and be attracted to better. Because we tend to be more intuitive and, can feel a lot of emotions sometimes for other people, it helps us to be more empathetic for our ideal client and to really understand what the people that we're maybe going to coach, especially if you're going to coach, are going through. This is a super strength of women. It really is. A lot of times we're better with that piece of it. So sometimes I think women are actually better marketers than men because you're able to show a compassionate side of yourself that sometimes is harder maybe for men to, just because of the way they're wired. Again, generally speaking, don't send me a nastygram. I ain't having it. Okay. All right. So generally speaking, I think that, women, we understand our clients. We're able to speak their language. We're able to be compassionate. We're able to establish that know, like, and trust factor, perhaps at a different level sometimes than men are. Okay. So those are some of our strengths as females in business. But let me tell you some of the things that I've noticed that men do really well, that we women really need to learn from. Okay. I see so many men who are doing collaborations and doing them really well and really elevating one another and linking arms with one another, both inside the Christian faith and outside. They're not afraid to elevate each other, maybe in the same way that sometimes females are. Again, generalizing, not everybody, okay? But men are really good at just doing collaborations, okay? Men are also really good at just winging stuff. at just trying it, at not overthinking and thinking of the laundry list of reasons why they probably can't. Instead, a lot of times it seems to me that the men that I work with in business that I know that have been, I've been in a mastermind with and I've been mentored from, a lot of times for me, it seems like men are just more willing to be like, yeah, I don't know, but let's do it. Yeah, I never done that before. Let's try it. And we as women can really learn from that, because sometimes what I see us women doing is more making a checklist of these are the reasons it could work. These are the reasons it can't. This is maybe why I should. This is maybe why I shouldn't, where men are just more apt to go, okay, let's go for it. And I love that about them. And the second part of that is a lot of times men will go for things that seems like that perhaps they don't have the background for, maybe aren't super skilled in. And those same things, sometimes I will see women really sit and talk herself out of something because she's not had experience in that area or is super skilled. So like, let me give you an example. Have you guys ever heard of, sometimes the difference between a man and a woman perhaps applying for a job? And I've heard, stories that are kind of joking, but also there's some truth there. A lot of times a man will perhaps oversell himself almost, like, make himself, sound really good. Whereas us females, a lot of times we'll try to dumb ourselves down and we'll try to like downplay the things. And a guy a lot of times is more apt to just be more forward with accomplishments, just be more out there with what they want, be more direct. And a lot of times, because God did make us, different in styles of communication, a lot of times as women, we're just not as direct. We want to sugarcoat things as to not offend. We tend to get into people pleasing more than men, I think. And so, it's interesting when when we're looking at business, then I see a lot of women being like, well, I don't know. I've never really done that before, or I've never launched a course. And I don't want to say that I'm a coach because I've only coached, my cousin and my sister's friend and a couple of people for free, and this one woman that I went to high school with. And so I'm really not a coach. Whereas I think some men would be more apt to be like, I'm going to be a coach, and I'm going to start out by calling myself a coach, and then I'm going to find the coaching clients. I'd love to know if anybody's agreeing with me right now. Will you send me a DM on Instagram if you are? Actually, screenshot this podcast and upload it to your Instagram stories and tag me on it, because I want to know if you're agreeing with me. These are things we can learn from the guys, ladies. They do a better job of selling themselves. They do. Men are better at selling themselves. Again, generalizing, so don't send me a nasty gram. They're better, and I think also they're better at pushing for sales. What do you mean, Jen? Okay, well, sometimes the women that I'm coaching, I don't want to bug people. I don't want to send too many emails. Then I get 15 emails from the same guy, marketer, on the same day. Men don't get like into that sort of thinking as much. They don't feel weird about asking people for their credit card. They handle it differently. To them, it's more transactional. To us, a lot of times it's more relational. And I think sometimes that's why we as women get weird with it. Okay. We get weird with it. And so I was talking in my mastermind recently, just, in terms of seeing some guys do a collaboration, seeing them push really hard, seeing them not shy away at all from just flat out like, we're good. The product's good, and you'd be foolish not to buy it. Now, most women, we will not take that tactic. A lot of us will go around it. And, I have this thing, if you're interested, and we may or may not link arms and try to collaborate with other women for whatever reasons. And then a lot of times we just don't push as hard on the sales. And I think if we're going to be really good at marketing, and if we're going to be really good at sales, we've got to stop being A, weird with it, B, feel like it's slimy, because by the way, you're selling stuff every day of the week. If you've got teenagers, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're constantly selling stuff to them, whether it's the idea of putting their phone down during dinner or the idea of wearing shorts that are appropriate. You're constantly selling something to your teens. But then when we have to go to sell something in our business, we get all weird about it, ladies. So I just wanted to chat with you about that today, about what we can look at are the men in our industry and learn from. Because we are wired very differently. And there's times that I look at some of the guys in my industry and it makes me want to be bolder in my sales. It makes me want to be bolder in the way that I sometimes say things. It makes me want to be better at collaborating. And so I encourage you this week just to look at some of the men who are in your industry and notice just some of the differences between some of the ladies and some of the guys. And by the way, not one of them is better than the other. It's just different. And wisdom is seeing, I think, sometimes some things about guys, or guys, you about girls, for the two of you men that may be listening to this podcast, and being like, okay, I see how they do that. And there's a nuance to that. And there's actually a brilliance to that. And I'm going to actually try that. Does that make sense? And so I just want to encourage that you with that today, because I'm really paying attention to just some of the differences and the nuances, and trying to get better in some areas of my own business, trying to quit downplaying certain things and being bolder in some areas that I see some men in my industry just doing a better job of, quite frankly. And so I hope that this was helpful for you. And so tag me on Instagram, send me a DM, let me know. And I'd love to know if there's maybe, a guy whose business you're paying attention to, who you think is doing a fabulous job in marketing online, who you're really watching to kind of see how he does things. Let me know that too, because I'd love to follow them and take a peek at their business. So bless you. Hope that this was helpful to you guys. We'll see you next week.